Hey everyone, and welcome to Whispers of Turkish Stars. Settle in, because today we're bringing you a story that has the whole entertainment world buzzing. Before we dive into the heart of it, remember that every twist, every sigh, and every unresolved glance carries a history, and this one traces its way back to two names that define an era of screen chemistry, Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu. The spotlight is spinning once more, not for a premiere or a red carpet moment, but for something far more intimate. A letter, old, handwritten, and trembling with emotion, has surfaced, and it's said to have been written by Elçin to Barış during a time when their bond was more than just a script. Buried for years among trusted friends and confidants, it somehow found its way into the present, and now, it is igniting an avalanche of reactions across social media. As the story goes, the letter was never intended for the public eye. It was a private confession, the kind of late-night truth someone writes when the world is quiet and the heart refuses to be silenced. In it, Elçin reflects on the whirlwind that came with meeting Barış, the way his presence both steadied and shook her. She tries to make sense of their closeness, the intense push and pull of working side by side beneath the unforgiving glare of fame. And then there is the line everyone is quoting, the sentence that pierced through the noise and landed like a stone in the shallow waters of rumor. She describes a moment when, as she saw it, the curtain finally dropped. "I finally saw who he really was," she confesses, "and that realization stayed with me in a way I couldn't shake." Whether those words capture disappointment or simply a sobering truth is exactly what everyone is debating. The power of the letter is not in melodrama, but in its quiet steadiness. She writes about long nights on set, about the rare comfort of finding someone who understands the strange rhythm of the industry, and about the pressure that grew with every crowd that chanted their names together. It's a portrait painted in understatement. You can almost see them under harsh lights, exchanging glances that made the scene feel too real, only to walk back to a world that didn't allow them the luxury of softness. Within hours of the leak, fans flooded timelines with messages of support for Elçin. They praised her honesty, her vulnerability, her willingness, perhaps unintentional, to let people see the side of herself that scripts never demanded. Others are fixated on what Barış might say. Will he respond at all? Will he try to explain? Or will he keep silent and let the conversation swirl without him? The silence itself has become another character in this unfolding drama. Behind the trending keywords and viral threads is a tension that's nearly impossible to ignore. Those who followed their journey closely never forgot the way their partnership shaped a generation of TV watchers. The rumors were always there, hovering whispers of something deeper, something that refused to be neatly folded into standard PR lines. This letter doesn't confirm every piece of gossip we've heard over the years, but it does illuminate the emotional stakes behind the scenes. It reminds everyone that the brilliance we saw on screen didn't just live in the camera. It grew from real people trying to navigate a complex, fragile connection. Insiders claim the letter was sent to a very small circle years ago, tucked away as private testimony during a time when both were stretched thin by fame. It was supposedly entrusted to a friend who believed in the importance of holding on to moments that mattered. Whether its release now was an accident, a betrayal, or simply inevitable in a world where nothing remains hidden for long, no one can say with certainty. What's clear is the effect: memories are resurfacing, fans are revisiting old scenes with new eyes, and speculation has found fresh fuel. She writes about admiration, the glow of seeing talent up close, and the comfort of feeling known. But she also writes about uncertainty, those days when affection feels complicated, when admiration turns heavy under the weight of expectation. Buried in one paragraph is a confession of a different kind. She recalls a disagreement, one that didn't explode so much as fracture gently, in a way that only becomes devastating when the quiet finally ends. She describes the aftermath, that heavy stillness after an argument, the long drive home under streetlights that felt colder than usual, and that sinking sensation that something had shifted in a way that would be hard to undo. The line that everyone keeps returning to, the one that suggests she saw his true side, is less about accusation and more about awakening. It reads like the moment a story stops being a fantasy and becomes a memory. What those true colors were is left unsaid. She refuses to weaponize specifics. Instead, she writes about the ache of recognition, about watching the idea of someone she adored lean away from the version she had built in her head. It's not cruel. It is simply the kind of truth that transforms a person. The leak triggered a tidal wave online. Threads dissected every sentence, fans posted side-by-side clips and captions, and debates grew in intensity. Some argued the letter proves there was a romance that never got the closure it deserved. Others cautioned against reading too much into a message written in the privacy of a difficult moment. Still, curiosity about Barış's response is mounting. Will he offer gentleness and gratitude for the honesty? Will he defend himself? Or will he remind the world that not everything needs to be said out loud? Tabloids are already circling. They say the letter may be only a fragment of a longer exchange, that there were more pages, more nights, more unsent drafts tucked away, even voice notes that may have floated through trusted chats before receding into silence. Whether those stories are true or just the feverish dreams of a rumor mill that never sleeps, they add to the gravity of what has already surfaced. And the longer it dominates the conversation, the more it reshapes the mythology surrounding these two stars. There's something striking about the way this letter reframes Elçin's public image. We've seen her command the screen with power, poise, and a kind of luminous confidence that makes every scene feel alive. But here, in her own words, is the softness behind that strength, the gentle, trembling, fiercely loyal part of her that wanted to believe in a love that could survive scrutiny. Through ink and restraint, she shows what it means to be brave enough to admit she was changed by the experience, and also brave enough to keep some pieces to herself. And there's something equally revealing about the way the world is waiting for Barış. He has long been admired for his grounded presence, his quiet intensity, his ability to say everything with a look. Now, even in silence, he is being asked to step back into a past moment and offer clarity. Perhaps he will. Perhaps he will let the letter stand as a testament to a connection that meant something profound, even if it did not last in the way stories often promise. What lingers is a portrait of two people who learned each other in conditions few can understand. The letter remembers small details, a laugh that softened an exhausting day, a coffee left waiting in the dressing room, a glance that reassured one of them when lines slipped and schedules dragged. It also remembers the pressure of expectation. How every shared scene lit a fire beneath rumors, how every interview turned into a delicate dance around questions they were never ready to answer. For many fans, this revelation is less about scandal and more about intimacy. It's about realizing that what they sensed years ago wasn't just wishful thinking, it was the echo of something that really existed, even if it did so in fragile, uncertain ways. The letter doesn't break hearts, it validates them. It tells those who believed in their bond that the chemistry on screen had roots in something real, something complicated and human. Since the leak, social media has become a stage for compassion. People are sharing their own stories of misread signals and late-night clarity, comparing the letter's tone to moments in their lives when admiration collided with reality. They are praising Elçin's voice for being precise without being cruel, for showing the tenderness that endures even when disappointment arrives. And they are reserving space for Barış, too, for the idea that someone can be deeply loved and still be seen differently once the light changes. Insiders whisper that statements may be coming. Perhaps a quiet acknowledgement from her team, a short note saying the letter is genuine and that it reflects a moment in time that should be respected rather than dissected. Perhaps a measured response from him, respectful and careful, that honors the past without relitigating it. Until then, we're all left with a page that feels like a mirror, clear enough to reflect, vague enough to keep its secrets. For the industry, this has become the story of the season. Producers and co-stars are being asked to comment, old interviews are being rewatched with renewed intensity, and the pair's most beloved scenes are trending again like it's the first time. And yet, beneath the noise, this tale remains disarmingly simple. It's about two people who found each other at a time when everything was loud and bright, who tried to hold on to something real, and who grew apart in ways that weren't always dramatic, but were absolutely defining. There are whispers that more may come to light in the days ahead, not scandal, but context. A photo from a rap night, a message of thanks saved on a phone, an apology that never made it past the drafts folder. If any of it surfaces, it will not change what the letter already made clear, that love, admiration, and disappointment can exist in the same space, and that it takes courage to admit each of them had a place at the table. In the end, the letter isn't explosive. It's honest. It reads like a hand placed gently on the past, a recognition of how intensely one person can shape another's memory of themselves. It proves that even the brightest stars carry tender chapters that don't fit easily into interviews or PR statements. And it shows that the roles we play in public often sit atop a quieter narrative, one that waits patiently for the right night to speak. As the days pass, the conversation will evolve. New voices will enter, some seeking drama, others offering understanding. But among all the takes and trending tags, the core remains unchanged. Elçin wrote to Barış about a love that was complicated and transformative. She allowed herself to be seen in ways that risked misunderstanding, and she did so with a kind of grace that will be hard to forget. For now, the world is waiting. Waiting to see whether he will respond. Waiting to learn whether this page was a final chapter or just one part of a longer story that will never be fully told. Waiting to understand what it means to hold on to a memory with reverence rather than regret. We'll keep watching, not to pry, but to honor the truth that drew everyone to them in the first place. Because what made their chemistry unforgettable wasn't just the dialogue or the camera angles. It was the authenticity that leaked through every shared look. This letter simply reminds us that behind the legend of Barış Arduç and Elçin Sango lies a truth that is beautifully, painfully human. Thank you for watching Whispers of Turkish Stars. If you want more stories like this, the kind that reveal the heart beating beneath the headlines, don't forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, stay close, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the quietest words echo the longest.